Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast of Real Recovery. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. Welcome to Real Recovery. Bill Arnold on this side of the studio, and just across the way, George P. Fraser. Hello, George.
Billy, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's nice to see you. It's nice to be here in studio. I've got a topic for us tonight. We do not have a guest in studio. It's just you and I. But my question to you to get things started is, why do alcoholics and drug addicts have trouble getting sober?
They don't want to.
Okay.
I think, it's hard to say for everyone, but the people I've worked with and myself, you don't want the consequences, but you miss the things you like. And in the road of addiction, what happens is it starts off great. This is my solution. Where's this been? I feel better than I have. I don't have stress, anxiety. Well, it works for a while. And it's kind of like the part of the book of James where it talks about you're trapped and enticed by your own lust. But as it goes on, you need to do more and more, and the consequences become more and more. And the enjoyment becomes less, but it's kind of all you have.
It's a trap, isn't it?
Total trap.
Yeah, because you almost have to start using just to feel normal.
You do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a trust question of if I really do quit, is it going to be any good? I remember for me, after 7 years of struggling in and out of recovery, I thought, well, it'll be like being in a monastery.
Which would probably be a good place for you.
But it's better than prison.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way this is going to work. You see these people and they go, yeah, we're from recovery. When you're in treatment, they come in and you're thinking, okay, they got to pay these people. I remember a guy said, my name is Dan. And he had one of those little bobber birds, that its head went up and down and a glass of water.
Yeah.
And the guy said, all I have is my sobriety, my relationship with God. And I said to the guy next to me, I would never admit that publicly. This guy's a loser.
Why would you say that?
Because I thought he was.
Okay.
Real short haircut back in the day when nobody had that.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't really listen to him. It was my last rehab. There's an ending to this story that's a huge God shot. So I went out using again about 3 months later. And I remember doing coke, and the thought came to me, who's the loser? That guy or you?
Interesting.
And it convicted me. Anyway,
You did have a point.
Yeah. Well, it gets better. There's more. And so about 25 years later, I'm working at the Salvation Army. You're laughing at me.
Yeah, I am. It sounds like a ShamWow commercial. Yet there's more.
There is more.
Yeah.
Working at the Salvation Army, and you go there every week, and as you know, on their commencement, their graduation, don't start laughing because I'll go. And guys come into my office. I was working there, and the guy comes in, and he goes, I want to introduce you to my sponsor. And I look at the guy, and I thought, oh, no, he's back. So I said, great to see you. Come on and sit down. I go, I owe you an amend. He goes, why? I go, did you used to speak at this rehab center? He goes, yeah, I did it every week for 20 years. I'm thinking, no, you didn't. You're lying. I go, well, I was at one of your talks. You had the little bird. He goes, yeah, the little bird. And I said, you said, my relationship with God and my sobriety are the most important things in my life. And I said to the guy next to me, what a loser this guy is. And 3 months later, I went out using. And I thought about you, and I thought, who's the loser? And I said, I think about 4 months after that, I've been sober ever since. And the guy gets a tear in his eye.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So let's make me worse. Come over and kick me a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, think about it. When was that? I go, 1977. And he said, well, that was a long time ago, 25 years. And you're working at the third largest treatment center. You're program director in Minnesota. And I went in and talked to you. And he said, the reason I got sober, I was in jail. And it's been 40 plus years. And they used to let us out into the common area for meetings. And the boys from the 12-step group came. And I got kicked out of the meeting for lipping off. I'm thinking, I can relate to that. And he said, the next day, one of the guards brought this big blue book in and said, the guy left it for you. I threw it against the wall. And a couple of days later, I saw it and I started reading. And that night, I got down on my knees and I prayed to God to take away my alcoholism. And he did. And he said, you realize that when you heard me speak 25 years ago, God knew that we would meet again today. Don't we have a great God? And that's one of my best recovery memories. One of my best. And I think it kind of amplifies where people are at. You don't want to give up the known, even though it's horrible. And like it says in the book of Ephesians, you have to put out the old and put on the new. But you got to go all in to your recovery. Most of us only show moderation in our life. We certainly don't do it in our using, but we do it in our recovery. Oh, I'll take a little of that, none of that. And for me, that's what I see. But God, in his wisdom and strength, pierces your heart where a lot of us keep coming back to recovery. And then one day, miraculously, it's there. I think you can refuse God's call. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but I think you can. And suddenly, one day, he breaks your will. And what seemed to be the one thing you just didn't want to do, you should have done it, is what you want to do now. God changes the desire of your heart through the Holy Spirit, first by convicting you and then offering your hope that it is better. And if you stay sober for like a year, as our friend Glenn Rank says, it's like the movie The Wizard of the Oz. The color comes in the movie. That's like recovery, where all of a sudden you go, I'm so grateful to be here. You know, I remember thinking, I'm so grateful to have a relationship with a forgiving God who loves me when I didn't love myself. And I get to share that with other people who've been in the same predicament, like survivors of the shipwreck of the Titanic. And you're overjoyed to just be there. Anytime anybody gets sober, God does it. You can resist it. I don't know how it works. It's a mystery, but it's a wonderful mystery.
Well done, George. Is addiction a ongoing brain disease? Is it a heart issue or both?
That's a great question. I struggled with this for a long time. I think it starts by sinful behavior that changes the physiology of your body and your brain to where it becomes a disease. Remember, before the fall, there was no disease, no death.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's both disease and sin.
Well, I do believe what you said is true. It starts off as sin, but then doesn't some of the drugs and substances hijack your brain's reward system, and it gets filled with so much dopamine that you realize your brain is operating with a level of dopamine it was never meant to have, and then you need that again to try to get that same level of satisfaction. And the more you use, the more you need, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Yes, and one of the thoughts has been that it depletes your dopamine.
Yes.
That you can't have any pleasure anymore.
Yeah, you can't naturally produce dopamine anymore.
So when I was, 20 years sober, I read a book, and I called the author. He was a professor down at Baylor University. And his thought was, great book, helped me a lot, that if you're like a cocaine addict, you need to use a supplement to get the good endorphins going, and because otherwise you're stuck. And I called the guy, and I was shocked that he took my call. Well, he didn't know who I was, otherwise he wouldn't. And he told me that, and he goes, you need to buy. I go, well, I've been sober 20 years, and I haven't been doing it, but I've been exercising. He goes, that's interesting. Had a nice talk. You have to do something to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be involvement at church, meetings, different activities. You're a workout guy. I'm a workout guy. Bill Glasser at the University of Minnesota, 1975, wrote a book called Positive Addictions. And for me, I wouldn't be sober without that. I've had an illness for the last couple months, the virus, and I'm getting out of it, but I wasn't able to work out. And for me, there's not a lot of joy when I can't do that. And I think God gives us bodies that reward us for doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, one of it, I have peace, satisfaction, joy, less stress, less judgmental thoughts. I can turn my head off when I work out. And I think you need to find something like that.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the cravings that are created. And oftentimes there's cues, there's people, places, and what else? Emotions. So we've got
Things.
Yes. We've got three things that can trip us up. And the brain knows that when we associate that people, that place, or that thing, or that emotion, that it knows what it wants to do. So how do we fight against that impulse?
You're asking me?
I am asking you. You're 40-some years sober.
Yeah.
You've been doing it beautifully for a long time.
Yep. Picture of mental health right here behind the microphone.
I didn't say that.
For me, there's triggers, which are situations outside of me that create a desire to use, like old friends, old music. I remember one day driving in my car and somebody had given me Leonard Skinner's greatest hits. So I don't know, I'm sober 15 years at the time. And Freebird came on, most overplayed song in the world. But to us, that was our graduation song and
the high school anthem.
Lord help me, I can't change.
Yeah.
And I found myself kind of reaching for the ashtray for the pipe and realized I'd been sober a long time. Might be a stretch to some people, but I think Satan was in charge of music, Lucifer. Could be wrong on that. But music is very powerful. Like when I'm listening to Pandora now and songs from the 70s, I feel like I did when I was in high school. That's a trigger. Cravings to me only come after I've had it. So like if I have the first drink, then I crave more.
Gotcha.
So...
yeah. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. We're going to take a little break and be right back with lots more. Our topic tonight is why do alcoholics and drug addicts have trouble getting and staying sober? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Recovery. Bill and George. Ryan's on the board tonight, and we're talking about why do alcoholics and drug addicts have trouble staying and getting sober. It's a hot topic for you if you are in that position. You're trying to figure out, how do I move myself from a place of using to a place of sobriety? And we know you can do it with the power of the Holy Spirit. That surrender this to God, and He will help you. I promise. But George, the initial attempts at sobriety can initially feel kind of miserable or empty, can it?
Well, and lonely. I know for me, all the friends that I had used, and they used like I did. The worst thing that could happen to you when you're a using guy is to have a guy like you invite him over on Friday or Saturday, and you don't drink. I'm not doing that. And so when you stop using, you don't have a lot of friends. And we all go, well, I can hang around them. I'll just drink Diet Coke. Mine was Perrier with a lime, so everybody thought I had the vodka toddy going. And that can last a couple weeks because you realize when your buddies get buzzed at a bar, you feel very lonely because you're not in on the jokes. You do get to see what happens to people when they drink. They really change after that third drink, and you're not there. So one of the hard parts is finding sober friends, a solid, sober support system, because you don't have that. And for me, I was 27, and the only guys I knew that were sober were 40 and up. And that was very hard. Nowadays, it's a lot different. But you have to plug into a community, not just to have to. A lot of the recovery groups meet, and then they go out for dinner afterwards. I never got sober. I don't want anybody seeing me with these guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I had a reputation. Everybody knew I was a cocaine addict and alcoholic, but I don't want to be seen with these guys. And finally, I got desperate enough to go. And that's really where the real gathering happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful I got into a group of guys that I liked. I liked what they had. And when we'd gather, there was a big table in the middle of the rooms, and guys would bring books in all the time. And I remember I asked my mentor, Danny, what are they doing? He goes, well, we exchange books. We all read for escape, pleasure. Well, I started doing that. Another guy, Bob J., who changed my life, it was after my last use, and I was in there crying, and it was legit. I was beat up. I was hopeless, and I could share with these guys. And Bob said, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Well, I'd said that before. Of course I am, He goes, cassette tape. I want you to listen to this when you're driving around your car.
You had a cassette player in your car?
Yeah, way back. Okay. I had an 8-track for then, so did you.
I know I did.
And I used to drive through our town with, who was it? Johnny Walk, guitarist or brothers, Jumpin' Jack Flash.
Yeah, Johnny Winter.
Johnny Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hear it for blocks.
Mm-hmm.
But I go, what is it? He goes, it's Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do next? Put tights on and learn how to do ballet? And I go, he goes, you said you were willing to go to any lengths. So to show the guy, he said it'll get you closer with God.
Rachmaninoff.
Classical music.
Okay. Did it calm your nervous system down a little bit?
It did something.
Okay.
And to this day, I listen to classical music a lot during the day. I do it in the morning. I have quite the collection. But it gets me out of my head.
Yeah, interesting. So, George, when you are struggling with impulse control, because we can be impulsive, right? Especially if we're in the throes of addiction.
Especially if I'm awake.
Exactly. If you're awake and you're in the throes of addiction and you're having trouble controlling your impulses, what happens when you're under stress and you know you should quit, but you struggle to do it because your brain's governor is shot. It just doesn't regulate anymore.
Good question.
Do you have an answer?
I'm working on it.
Okay.
No. So there's a great Mars Candy commercial about being hangry.
Yeah.
They had Betty White on there. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old acronym called HALT. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Mm-hmm.
And any time you have that, you're in danger. Your recovery, your walk with God is in danger. You can say something you're going to regret. That's been a big one of mine for years. Sure feels good at the time. And then afterwards you go, hey, remember when I said you were a blah, blah. I didn't really mean it. It stays out of that, but your emotional regulation gets out of line. We talk about the process of relapse, which is a process of returning to chemical use. I believe it's misused when people say, well, he relapsed when he used. The difference is the reason relapse is a process is you can identify it and change it. And you can go, yeah, I'm a little edgy today. And then you look at step 10, you continue to take personal inventory. And when you're wrong, promptly admit it, which was new to me. One of your guests on your show is Dr. Glenn Pickering. And he said when he did our show one time, many years ago, and this was a nugget from doing this show, which is I love doing. Step 10, when it says you're wrong, doesn't mean you're bad. It means you're wrong. How freeing that is to just go, hey, I was wrong. Because when you're using, you have to justify and minimize all that. You're not wrong. You got to defend yourself. And to say, hey, I'm out of sorts here. And what you do is you look back on your day. Did I do my quiet time today? Did I say my prayers? Have I been eating right? Did I get enough sleep? Have I talked to people? Or have I been isolating, not eating, not working out, blew through my quiet time? And you can change it. And it's like Martin Luther said about repentance. That's Christianity. You identify it, repent, and turn around. And that it's so freeing to know that that's a natural process of recovery, that you're not stuck. You're not going to go and use. You will if you don't correct it, but you can identify it, and you need to know what your warning signs are. I know for me, I get irritable, like driving.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that next.
Intolerant. People really start bugging me. No names.
Present company excluded.
You rarely do.
Okay. But
I think you try to, but you don't.
Yeah. I mean, what about things like, you talked about irritability. What about anxiety or depression or insomnia? When you were trying to withdraw from drugs and alcohol, did you suffer that? Was that
I had
a side effect
cocaine-induced psychosis, and basically what that was. And when you see that on a report from a psychiatrist, my first thought was, wow, is that reversible? And I met with a psychiatrist for 2 years, and he goes, yes, it is. And what it was, I didn't know if something had really happened or I dreamt it sometimes, which is very scary. But if you do the work and you're open and honest about your problems, and let's face it, we all think our big problem is our using. It's really not. It's us. Why did you use? Mm-hmm. And it's really, I think, a book of basic Christianity for people that missed it. It's a great way to walk out your faith using the 12 steps. And I know for me, one of the greatest blessings in my life was God allowing me to go into my addiction, because now I have to stay 24/7 connected. Do I mess up? All the time. All the time. Still have the sarcastic comments. I remember Denny told me 30 years ago, he's my mentor, that just because you think it doesn't mean you have to do it. Now, for 30 years, we've been thinking about just because you think it doesn't mean you have to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Always a tough one. But you talked about depression and other things for
irritability, anxiety, insomnia.
For your warning signs. For me, irresponsibility is third. Letting the dishes pile up, letting my mail pile up, not making my bed. And it's like one failure after another, and you go, well, why bother? For a lot of people, it's depression. Thank God I've never really had that one. I look at my life, and I don't know why I didn't. I should have. But not staying in the moment. I got a good friend named Jimmy Tolliver, who's a retired counselor, lives down in Myrtle Beach. Now, Jimmy's 83. And I was talking to him the other day, and he said, do you know what the biggest problems are for addicts? And I thought, I should know this. He said, staying in the moment. And I thought, that's really good. I think that is for most people. We say the serenity prayer, and really about accepting where God has you and not thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, thinking about what you did yesterday, but what are you supposed to do now? And it really simplifies things. I think, like most addicts, we think we're brilliant. I know I do, in spite of my track record. And I need to keep things really simple. Really simple. You know, Jesus said 2 things. Love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. I'm never going to love anybody like I love myself. I can get close. I mean, my dog, Lucy, close. But at the end of the day, my big problem is my addiction is I want to be God in my own life. I want to make the calls, and I want to reserve the right to call 911 to Jesus on the hotline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better at it. But all these things come into play of your recovery, and I think all Christians are in recovery. They should be different than when they got saved.
Yeah. It's sad to think your dog Lucy would trade you for 2 pieces of chicken.
I think it would be about 5.
Okay. Well, still be a trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Upgrade.
We're going to take a short break and come back. Lots more real recovery ahead. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and we will be back in just a minute. Welcome back to Real Recovery. Bill and George, we're talking tonight about why do people who use alcohol and drugs have trouble getting sober and staying sober. George, how many years do you have in your sobriety? 46?
41.
41, okay.
Passive-aggressive, thank you.
Well, way to go. Way to go.
No, I was talking about you.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
No, it's funny. The first year is like a big deal, and it is. And then after you're sober a while, you go, okay, I can't take a lot of pride in this because I didn't do it. It took me 25 years to get to that point. But the mystery is why people get sober and others don't. I've worked with guys a long time. I only work with men. And when I have them in rehab, I think, and you've worked with guys at the Salvation Army, you can probably, chime in on this. I'll think, well, this guy's going to make it. This guy better change what he's doing because he's not participating. And almost all the time I'm wrong on who's going to get sober and who's not. And I learned that a long time ago, so I work, just like, okay, it's my job is to communicate what I think God wants me to, pray for him, and let the results go. Because it always amazes me. Usually when guys don't make it in rehab and then they come back, they're on fire when they make it. I was talking to a friend of mine who sponsored this guy, and I knew him and really liked the guy, complete wise guy and real successful, cocky guy. Didn't make it the first 5 years. Now he has 5 years, 2 kids, a wife. He's leading Bible studies at church and recovery groups. That's God.
That's totally God.
I never get tired of seeing that. I can't see God. I mean, I can look at the creation. I think Paul wrote in Romans that the creation proves the creator. But when you see somebody totally broken, helpless, no hope, and then you see them a few years later and they're helping other people, they're at the top of your game, you go, you'd be the last guy I would think would help people. And the last time I said that was this week when I looked in the mirror in the morning. It's all God. And I think we need to remember that because that'll keep you grateful.
So if you are looking for sobriety, you're looking for recovery, you've come to the right place. We do want to encourage you, and the Lord will break your addiction. He will help you. But, George, it's usually something more than just stopping, isn't it?
Yes. I look at stopping all mood-altering chemicals as abstinence, stopping all mood-altering chemicals except medically prescribed, with a change in your life is sobriety. For most of us, just stopping isn't good enough. The guy I was drank, did coke, gambled, lots of other stuff, and you just stop doing the chemical, I'm still me. I need to become a new creation in Christ.
Amen.
But you got to do the work. Prayer works, but rarely have I seen a person who just prayed and didn't do the work of learning more about God and getting in community, of helping other people make it. Because it's not good enough. The great joy in recovery for me, and I think 99% of people, is working with other guys. And when we're the most selfish people on earth. So it's kind of funny, but I love working with guys and see them get sober. And then they go on and work with guys. And
yeah, it's very satisfying to see.
Three of the guys, because they were on our show. One's in L.A., one's in Indiana, and one is working at a treatment center in Tennessee. And they call the old guy occasionally, and it just makes me feel better than about anything else. Because I know that if they pass it on, they'll keep it.
Right.
But you can't give away what you don't have. And you need to get sober. And we have a lot of other issues, too. And when you're sober, you see that. And you have a desire to work out. I was in therapy for 2 years. A lot of people think I should go back. And I would if I had to. But it really helped me. What it is another person showing you what you look like holding a mirror up to you. And it's like, I don't want to be that guy. Well, you are that guy.
Yeah, right. Good point.
And
I've heard people say stuff like, well, that's not who I am. Actually, it is who you are because you did it.
My favorite one is, I won't name the treatment center, but I would do a lot of intakes. And they ask your legal problems, relational health problems. And usually alcoholism or drug addiction, you can say, well, he drinks this much. I've known people that drink a lot. And until the health thing gets them, they don't have any real consequences. Sure there are, but they're not apparent. But you get done, and I've had guys that have been murderers, and they've been in prison for 20 years, and, they don't know their kids, and behind in child support, and wrecked this, blew up that. And at the end, I'd go, do you think you're a good guy? Yeah, when I'm not using, I am. That's what I thought, too. And so, therefore, your big problem is using, isn't it? Well, when you stop using and start doing the steps or go to Celebrate Recovery or get in a Christian 12-step group, you start peeling the onion back, and you see, wow, selfish, self-centered, egocentric.
I like what you said about taking responsibility. In Proverbs 19, it says, a man will blow up his own life and then be mad at God.
Totally.
I've seen that before.
All the time. And of course, not just in alcoholism.
Everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't want to overcomplicate this, but let's talk about some of the issues that come alongside addiction, like an untreated mental health problem or some trauma from your past that's never been resolved. That all contributes to use because you're not dealing well with your life, your past.
Yes.
Which is not easy.
Well, the reason you haven't done it, it's not easy. And you have to look at all the situations in your life that may have caused it. There's horrible abuse that goes on, sexual, psychological, physical, trauma, poverty, all sorts of things. And when you stop using and you start going, okay, this isn't good enough. Why? Well, when you go through the steps, step 4, fears, sex conducts, resentments. Usually in the resentment category, you can look at a lot of what your issues are. And it doesn't matter if the resentment is justified because it's killing you. I'm still mad. I was mad at my dad for moving out when I was 13 till I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, I was about 3 years sober, I liked the guy, but he was a better friend than my dad, and I forgave him, and that weight was off. People do the same things, and a lot of the stuff they do, you just can't justify. But are you going to let that weigh you down? And a lot of it's hard. People that have been tortured and raped and that, those are really difficult things and way above my pay grade to help somebody. But there are places that can help you. And we have a God that can do anything he wants.
True.
And talks about in the Blue Recovery book that resentments is like murder to us. It's the number one offender that gets us back to drinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the good news is if you're listening and you're having a problem quitting, I think you need to pray to God to give you the desire to do it. Most of us go in so we don't go to prison, we keep our job, our marriage, whatever. It's the consequence. But we need to have God show us, convict us that our using's wrong just because it's wrong in his eyes, and give us the hope and desire to change it. I still pray every day before I get out of bed, God, give me the power, strength, the desire to stay sober today. And you know what? That's worked. John 15:5 says, apart from me, you can do nothing. Why bring him in at 3 in the afternoon like he's a Bush League pinch hitter? Go to the source right away.
Mm-hmm. George, what about people who can't stay present? You talk about it's 24 hours at a time, right?
Yep.
And there's so much pushback against people who are caught in addiction, and they try to figure out what their life could possibly be like without having the substance in the future. I had a friend of mine say to me that his wife said, "Are you telling me I can't have a celebratory beer when our son graduates from high school?" And the funny part is the son was about 5 years old at the time when that was said. It's like
not uncommon.
13 years away.
George, you mean I can't have champagne at my wedding?
Exactly, yeah.
Which one? It's an irrational thought.
It is irrational, yeah.
But it seems rational to you. So why would you be worried about something that may never happen? Why would you be concerned? Because it's easier to look at that and try to come up with reasons not to do it. I'm not going to quit drinking because 30 years from now, I might want to drink.
Right.
But at the time, it seems very logical.
It does, doesn't it?
Which should
it's
be
crazy.
Indicative of how much trouble you're in. The therapist I saw for 2 years, thank God he stood in there. I don't know if you believe this, but I was really a smart aleck.
No.
Yeah,
no.
I know. That was sarcastic in itself. And the guy kept hanging in there, and he would say, I'm going to repeat to you what you said to me. And I think I said, yeah, but it won't be as cool or as well done. So you can hear it. It was stunning to me how harsh it was, how rash it was, that I didn't mean it, and that really helped. But you need to have somebody that's going to tell you how you're really coming across. They used to have an exercise in rehab called the Johari window. And basically what it was, there's this window, and it's how you see things, how others see you, how you see things. And And it's shocking that your way of thinking isn't how everybody else thinks, because you're always thinking about yourself. That I think most of us have no idea how we can come across negatively because we think we're okay. And when you get sober, you're open. I said something to a guy the other day, and I thought about it afterwards. I was talking to Danny. He goes, "You weren't wrong, but you could have said it a lot better." So now I'm mad at Denny. But it was true. And I thought, yeah, so you live and learn, ask for forgiveness, and you move on.
All right, we're going to take a short break. It's Real Recovery with Bill and George. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We are back. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. We're talking tonight about why do alcoholics and drug addicts have trouble getting sober and staying sober. George, you've given a lot of great information tonight. I appreciate that. But let's talk a little bit about just the stigma of being addicted or an alcoholic and some of the immense shame that's associated with it that can actually prevent people from seeking help.
Totally.
Are you telling me I got to walk into an AA room? I remember when you first did it, you just didn't want to do it and you hated it.
Well, the idea that you drink too much, it's causing you problems, that you've got a double life going, work, partying. In the book of James, it talks about, the unstable man is tossed about like double-minded man is tossed about like waves on the ocean. That's really a guy who's in addiction, too. You're lying to everybody. It's like you're the secret agent, man. You've got a double identity, but it's so powerful that it takes over your identity, your mind, and you can't possibly think about quitting until you have to, because you're either going to lose something you can't afford to lose or not get something that you need to have in your mind. And as we've talked about on this show many times, I think the greatest evangelical tool in our country is the Department of Corrections, because you can tell off your boss, you can get another job, you can get another wife, I suppose you could get another family. But you can't say no to the Department of Corrections. When that door shuts on you, it's a brilliant moment of mental clarity. And when you're on probation like I was, that's another incentive. And hopefully the probation is long enough and they make you go to rehab and then a follow-up by attendance at recovery groups to where you're there long enough to have the light shine on you of God. I worry, and you might think this is stupid, probably is, but with the driverless cars coming, I'm not in recovery. I'd still be out there. The big worry of an alcoholic drug addict is you're going to kill somebody with your car. The long walk the next day is out to the car to see if there's anything hanging on it. Did I bust it up? For me, a lot of times, I didn't know where my car was. And ironically, I think it got stolen. But the guy who stole my car all the time would always leave it in a bar parking lot, which was really nice because I'd retrace my steps and he brought it back. Isn't that scary?
Yeah, is it ever?
And a lot of people, that comes true in their life. We had a guy on our show, no names, that had a few years of sobriety that happened to him. And on our show, he said, I don't think they gave me enough prison time. And he later went back out, I think because of the shame and the guilt, and died. The shame of coming in is overwhelming. And I know for me, when I found a group of guys that I liked and admired, they had what I wanted. They had lives. There were cops. And I disliked cops intentionally till then. Grain traders, entrepreneurs. But they had what I wanted. They had families. They had normal lives, teachers. And the one thing they all had in common is they had to quit drinking to keep their life. And it took me a while, 7 years to get it, but I wanted what they had. And a couple of the guys, I thought, if they have the same disease I do, I'm honored to have it. They were really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's really shameful. And we're so messed up and disoriented. About 2 years into recovery, a friend of mine came. He goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I go, "Sure." He goes, "So everybody knew you were a cocaine addict and a drunk and irresponsible, and you only showed up when you wanted to." I go, "Okay, I get it. Take it easy. But now that you're not using, nobody can know it. Why is that?" Well, I know why. There's, secrecy for people that, and you have the right to not have anybody. But I thought about that and was like, yeah, why? Everybody knows you're not messing up anymore, George.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get tainted and twisted, that the way you intake information is faulty. And over the years, that gets a lot better. And I think a lot of the reason it gets better is you focus more on God and other people.
Now, George, I know that we have had several guests that have been delivered from drugs and alcohol. It came in a moment and they didn't use again. Now, that seems to be the kind of the outlier effect versus the ones that have to go through years of recovery, relapse, which is a normal part of the recovery process, isn't it?
Well, yes, I never say that to people. I don't want to give them license to go
I
use.
don't either.
For me this time, and I think a lot of people that I know thought, if I use again, I'm going to die. And that's a gift from God, the seriousness of it. We both know a gentleman who's a minister in Minneapolis that would have been the last guy I ever thought would quit using. And I look at the guy's life, and he's helped more people to come to know Jesus than anybody I've ever met. And there are no limits with God.
Mm-hmm.
I think people need to know that they're loved. It's kind of like I see two things that we need to throw out. Most of my guys I work with say, well, I can't forgive myself for that. I know God does. And we had a guest on here, Reverend Dennis Otto. And he said, where in the Bible does it say you need to forgive yourself? And that's the other thing. And the other thing is, I don't rely on myself to stay sober. I rely on God. And I didn't learn that till 7 years of failure.
Appreciate that, George. Thank you for all your wisdom tonight. It's been great having this discussion. And if you missed any of this program, please check out the podcast. Hear it from the beginning. There's a lot of good things discussed, and we'd like you to hear it all. Our topic tonight has been, why do alcoholics and drug addicts have so much trouble getting sober and staying sober? But that's our show for the day. Thank you very much for tuning in and supporting Faith Radio and our show. We'll look forward to being with you next time. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.
There are moments in life when you don't know what comes next.
In one moment,
everything changed.
Moments of loss.
My world, everything starts falling apart.
Moments of fear.
I tried to slow down and I couldn't. I'm putting both feet on the brake pedal and nothing's happening.
Moments of doubt.
If you're real.
And in those moments, people discover something unexpected.
That's the moment that the color came back in the room. It was literally like a light switch went on.
On the Wild God Stories podcast, you'll hear true stories of real people.
We start spinning out of control and we start calling out on the Lord.
I owe him my very life.
And when we say Wild God, we're talking about the one true living God.
I just sensed God say, help this woman. And I just told her about Jesus.
Wow God Stories, wherever you get your podcasts.